Hi, I'm Dan, and welcome back to the Rock Nerd Radio Show here on YouTube. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of the newly released aerial bots from the Age of the Primes subline of Transformers. This is Air Raid.
Come geek out with us on the Rock Nerd Radio Show.
So here's Air Raid in his jet mode. That's going to be where we start today. And if you're wondering why I'm not doing a which is better style comparison for Air Raid and the Combiner Wars iteration, it's because I've decided to wait until I have all 5 of the new aerial bots in hand before doing a which is better comparison. Now, I currently have Air Raid and Slingshot, who you'll see in an upcoming review. Silverbolt is on pre-order. I'm assuming that the other 2 aerial bots are coming out sooner rather than later, probably in Wave 3 of Age of the Primes. So eventually we will be doing a nice big comparison for Superion where I'll compare all 5 bots, all of their alt modes, and how Superion actually looks all combined. But today we are going to start with Air Raid in his vehicle mode. And as you can see, it is a nice looking jet. You see the nice black top to it with the red Autobot symbols, some white stripes on the wings, and some gray pieces along the way as well. It does kind of add a bit of a pop to this figure. One thing to mention is it does get a little messy if you look on the underside. You know, there's a robot crouched down. This is very easy to tell. But, you know, if you're looking at the jet toy, it's really going to look like this. Now, I don't have all the information yet in front of me, but I do believe that if you're going to be putting this into combined mode, it's going to look something like this. I believe is going to be part of how it kind of goes. So you know, you'll have something like this. I might have, you know, misfolded a piece or two, but that's going to be how the jet mode goes, or how the combined mode goes. He does form a leg for Superion. But just to go back to the jet mode for a moment, you know, there are some nice tab connections like for the wings, so they're not going to necessarily come loose. You do have a nice piece of landing gear there. There we go, right there, which is part of his chest. It just flips out so that he does sit very well without flopping forward. These pieces here at the back of the wings do rotate for transformation, but you could also technically take them out, and if you want them to be used as like hand melee weapons, you could do that as well. I prefer to keep them on the body of the jet, and you'll see where they go in robot mode. But like I said, I don't always have a tremendous amount of stuff to say about the vehicle mode of any Transformer, just because you know, I tend to display them in robot mode or in combined mode. Only other thing to mention is he does come with these 2 blasters here. I'm holding them upside down. There you go. And they have ports at the pegs at the end of them. So you can take them, and anywhere where there is a port on this figure, you can plug them in. So you could do them here at the back of the plane if you want, and they would end up looking like that. Or you could put them under the wings, which is where I tend to put most of the weapons, so that it looks like there are some guns hanging off the wings of the robot. And we're just going to put them on both sides. I will say they are a little thin, these weapons. So it does make tabbing them in without like moving the wings a little difficult, at least just for me with my big hands, I guess. But that's how it looks once you have it done. 2 guns hanging off the jet mode. I think it looks pretty cool. But I think now I should probably get to transforming Air Raid. So let's do it. So here I have Air Raid in his robot mode. Not a very complex transformation, very easy. It reminds me, quite honestly, of the Combiner Wars transformation with, the way the legs kind of fold in, the arms just kind of sticking right to the side. There are differences, but it does remind me of that. This was a figure that I didn't even really need to look at the instructions for in order to figure out how to transform. I just was able to kind of figure it out as I went along. But this is a standard deluxe figure, so you are looking at $25.99, $24.99. I will say I actually happened to be in a Target when I bought Air Raid and got him for 30% off, so I was glad to do that. Just because I hate to sound negative, this doesn't feel like a $25 figure. This kind of feels like a step back in terms of complexity, and you can argue, well, he technically has 3 modes, but that third mode is just untransforming him a little bit. So it's like I don't love the fact that prices keep going up and up. I'm not here to discuss that stuff today, but anyway, let's get into the look of this figure. You can see the head looks really nice. It almost looks like he's wearing a hat with the way the brim kind of goes out in front of his head. Nice blue eyes there, and the shape of the head overall is quite nice. I love that the Autobot symbol is right there, smack in the middle of the chest. Nice white section between these red sections. Going down to the arms, there is some nice robotic detail, but they look pretty good. You can see these 2 little red posts sticking out of the chest. That is for transformation. The arms just connect right to those posts. But otherwise, we do have this nicely painted yellow detail there, and it does look a little more white on camera, but in person it looks kind of yellow. Nice black on the top of the thighs, moving down to the thighs, which are nicely detailed and have some paint details as well. If you are to spin him around, yeah, he's wearing a jet on his back. But that is, I think, what we've come to expect with jet formers. Most of the time, any real jet former, Autobot, Decepticon, whoever, they kind of have, just the jet on their back. And there are 2 nubs on the sides of the plane that the wings do connect into. So you can have the wings kind of flush right against this. You can, leave them a little flared out if you want. It's your toy. You display it how you want. I, for now, am going to just leave them in the back like that. In terms of articulation, Air Raid's head does move left and right, and the whole assembly for his head kind of sits back. I'm assuming this is for the leg transformation, so you can really make him look very high up if you want to. But that's the way his head moves. Like I said, left to right, otherwise it is on a ball joint, so you do have some wiggle waggle in there as well. At the arms, we are going to have them go fully around and out. Shoulders, or mid part of the arm will move, fully around. And then at the elbow, a little more than 90 degrees, not much, but it is there. Nothing to talk about at the wrist. They don't move any other way other than in for transformation. So I doubt you're going to be using that to pose Air Raid. At the waist, we do have rotation. And at the leg, we're going to be able to kick forward that much and back that much. Only stopping there because the plane part gets in the way, the backpack. We do have the ability to fully spin at the thigh, which is nice. Knee is going to go back about 90 degrees. And that stops because, again, the boot part of his foot, because of transformation, that's where that's going to let you off. His feet do move forward, kind of an inhumane amount, but you could really have him in like some pretty good running poses if you need to. And then his ankles do tilt as well, so you can have them completely tilted so that he's doing like some kind of crazy split. But, look, the posability on that isn't bad. I was talking about the Combiner Wars version, and they definitely couldn't hit some of the poses that this one can. You've already seen him before, but he does have those 2 blasters. They do just slot into his hands like this, leaving him looking, like he's ready for a battle against, maybe the Stunticons, some other sub-faction of Decepticon troopers. My final thoughts on Air Raid were just that, well, he's a pretty good figure. He's pretty simple, and he looks pretty good on his own. However, I know that in my display, he's going to be spending eternity as a leg, once the rest of the aerial bots arrive and I put together Superion, he's just going to be a leg. That's really what it comes down to. I don't want to double up on combiners anymore, just in the interest of saving money. They've gotten more and more expensive. But Air Raid is a fun figure. If you don't want to get every single aerial bot, I would honestly say go with Air Raid. I think he might be the best of the ones I've handled so far. Granted, the only other one I've handled that you'll see soon in review is Slingshot. But I think Air Raid is the better of the two, and you'll see why once we go over Slingshot. But I think he's pretty neat. So let me know what you think of Air Raid down below. Are you going to pick him up? Are you getting all the aerial bots? Are you sitting this one out? Are you going to keep these 5 separate and keep the Combiner Wars Superion combined? Let me know what your plans are for your display and your collection. And remember, you can always check out the Rock Nerd Radio Show podcast, available on your preferred podcast platform. It is a weekly podcast hosted by myself and my good friend Vinny. Every week we talk about various aspects of pop culture. There's bound to be something on there that you're going to get into. But otherwise, let me know what you think of this figure down below in the comments. And until next time, I've been Dan. You've been pretty awesome. I'll see you around.